Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Grants and Government Contracting Podcast. My name is Abraham Shaw. I am your podcast host here. It's good to see all of you joining us live, as well as some of you who will be watching this on replay. Thanks for coming and hang out with me. Today, we've got a lot of interesting things to talk about. We're going to be talking about the Trump administration's, or more so Trump's first 100 day in office and the impact that can and has happened to you as a business owner. So that's going to be our topic for today's podcast here. If you are joining us live, let me know where you're joining us from. I appreciate all of you coming and hang out with me. Let me know where give me your company name and where you're joining us from. That would be awesome. So today, my co-host, Lainey, she is not able to join me, but nonetheless, we're going to have a lot of fun together. So the Grants and Contract Podcast is powered by the Government Contract Association. We're here to support small businesses as you make strides and, reposition yourself in the middle of all the different changes. You as a business owner have to continue to grow, have to continue to evolve. And it's the resilient, it's the companies that adapt and evolve that will succeed in a ever-changing marketplace here. So with that, let me go ahead and today's podcast is more a training session. I'm going to share a lot of facts, a lot of information, data points, but more important, we're going to talk about what you can do and how to position your business so that you can continue to grow and thrive regardless of who's in office. Because to me, it doesn't matter if it's a Republican office, doesn't matter if it's a Democrat office. We preach this here at GCA. It's not about blue state, red states. It's about green money, right? It's really all about positioning your business to thrive in every single administration, regardless of who's in office. You, as a business owner, you still have to grow. You still have to thrive. You still have to continue to operate and bring revenue in for your company. So that's what today's all about, is how to continue to grow in spite of all the changes. That some of it will be good, some of it will be challenging, but we're going to talk about what you can do to continue to grow in the government market itself. So I'm going to share my screen and then we're going to dive into today's topic here. So give me 1 second to get set up on my screen. All right. And slideshow. Yep, perfect. And all right, so if you're just joining us, we've got a lot of good stuff to talk about. So today we're going to be talking about Trump's first 100 days and the impact on government contractors. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Again, if you're just joining us, my name is Abraham Shaw. I am president and founder of the Government Contractors Association, and we're here to assist you as you continue to thrive and grow in the government marketplace itself. So let's go ahead and dive in. So what would we cover today? We're going to be talking about new contracting methods. That's going to be important for your business. We're going to talk about procurement consolidation that's happening as I speak right now. We're going to be talking about agency budget cuts and agency budget increases. There's going to be some agencies that's going to have their budget cuts. There's going to be some agencies that's going to have their budget increase. We're going to be talking about the DOGE and some updates with what's happening there. We're going to talk about FAR reforms and changes to the FAR. We're going to be talking about the impact on small business set-asides under the Trump administration. And we're going to be talking about the SBA is going through a lot of changes. The SBA's role is to help you as a business owner, more so small business owner, to, from a contracting perspective, from a lending perspective, and there's more changes, a lot of changes happening to the SBA. So that's going to continue to, you're going to see some changes there. We're going to cover that today. And then we're talking about, some updates on tariffs and supply chain challenges. I'll give you some updates on that. But then we're going to be talking about what are the emerging opportunities though, right? Because, we could talk about change and shifts and challenges, but we want to talk about where are the opportunities for you as a business owner. So we're going to be talking about that as well. So if you're just joining us, please, let us know where you're joining us from and the name of your company in the chat area. That would be awesome. If you're joining us and you're watching us on replay, thank you for watching us on replay. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel here. But let's go ahead and I want to talk about some bonuses at the end. So if you stay to the end, right, there's in the hour that we're spending together, there's only so much I can give you in 1 hour. I'm going to give you everything I can. If you stay to the end, I've got some awesome bonuses to share with you at the very end. So things that we're going to cover, but they're going to be given out to you as bonuses at the end. All right. So for me, I'm an entrepreneur like all of you. I do government contracting. I started the Government Contracting Association because I want to be an advocate for change, helping small business thrive in the government market. For the work that we've done here, we've helped businesses win over $2 billion in revenue contracts, taught over 16,000 companies. I was awarded President Obama's Lifetime Achievement Award, the Global Humanitarian Award, and the Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, awarded me as a Goodwill Ambassador for the state of Georgia. GSA, we are a National Trade Association. Our goal is to create access. And that's really our vision, is to help you have greater access to agency opportunities and for contracting officers to have greater access to more qualified companies. So that's really what we're all about. All right. So the first few things we want to talk about, executive orders. And let's look at a little historical data here. So from President Reagan all the way to Trump 2.0, under Reagan, 18 executive orders were signed. Under H.W. Bush, 12, Clinton, 13, Bush, George Bush, 12, Obama, 19, Trump era 1 is 33, Biden, 42, and Trump 2.0, 143. We're talking about historical records. If we look at the chart here, there are 49% of executive orders for the last few presidents has been done under the Trump administration in terms of Trump 2.0. The tool of executive order has become a powerful weapon in some ways, because weapon can do good and weapon can do bad, right? For all of you who own guns, gun can be a powerful weapon. Gun can be a weapon of destruction. Any type of weapon can be used as a double-edged sword in that regard. And so some executive orders have impacted small business positively, and some executive orders have hurt small business tremendously. And we're going to look at some of those things there. So a lot of executive orders have happened, and this year has made a lot of changes in the last 5-6 months. So let's continue to talk about here. So let's look at some DOGE contract termination. So since January to the end of April, 16,385 contracts have been terminated. Of that, 7,598 were terminated by DOGE, right? The other 9,000-ish was terminated by different agencies because they were requested to reduce their budget, to reduce the number of contracts. So some of it was done through agency and department heads and agency directors and so forth. But about 7,600 was done directly by DOGE itself. That $5.9 billion was terminated by DOGE, and small businesses received the brunt of all the terminations. 4,149 contract was terminated by DOGE, and 3,449 were in terms of large companies, contracts were terminated through DOGE itself. If we look at the top agencies that were cuts, that saw cuts, HHS received the most cuts with 1,788 cuts in terms of contracts terminated. USDA, Department of Agriculture, received 769. USAID, their agency was pretty much demolished to where it's probably 90, I don't have the exact number, but probably 98% of all of USAID budget is gone. And that they've been relegated to non-existent pretty much. GSA saw 605 contracts terminated, the VA 595, the Department of Treasury 396, the Department of Interior 350, DHS or Department of Homeland Security 335, Department of Transportation 216, and the DOC 206 in terms of cuts. So lots of terminations in terms of contracts. These are what I'm relating back to what DOGE have cut in terms of different agencies. But let's look at the type of categories in terms of work or product categories that's been cut here. Other professional services saw the most cut, 1,946 cuts in consulting work. Consulting saw 1,500 cuts. IT related work saw 1,199, almost 1,200 contract being terminated. Management support saw a total of 452, and then training in terms of coaching, HR saw a total of 445 cuts. News and software subscription saw 310 cuts. Research and development saw 302 terminations. Administrative support services saw 253. DEI contract, pretty much all of it, it was eliminated. 241 contracts being cut. We have members that were greatly impacted through all of these cuts here. A&E, which is architecture, engineering, and construction, 221 cuts. They saw the least because these are infrastructure work, and these are it's hard to cut this type of project because they're part of the infrastructure. So cuts, I believe, based upon what I'm seeing in the industry, we're starting to see less and less cuts. Within the last few weeks, more so last few months, I haven't really heard much of cuts anymore. So I believe that we are at the tail end of all these terminations in terms of contract itself. Now, we previously did a podcast on what to do if your contract was terminated. So if you didn't see that, go and watch that there in terms of how to deal with termination of contracts. And there you have rights, and there's funds, and there's costs that you can recoup. For example, if you leased a office building because you have to hire more staff, and even though they terminate your contract, but your lease, you still have a lease for another 2 years, you can recoup some of that cost because you increase your capacity to support a contract. But if the contract is terminated, you can't get out your lease. There's certain things that you can go out there and recoup that cost. All right, let's continue. GSA, there is a increase usage of GSA as an agency. They're going to have greater influence in the procurement landscape in the coming years, starting now and the coming years. So GSA is a lot of contracts, especially the big IDIQ contracts, specifically tied to IT and technology, is going to be consolidated into GSA. And so GSA currently manages slightly under $100 billion, but the current goal is to move about $400 billion potentially to be under GSA. Now, if you look at the total contracting landscape, $750 billion was awarded last year in 2024 fiscal year. So what this means is that GSA is going to manage over 50% of all federal spending. Let me say that again. GSA is going to manage over 50% of federal spending. What does that mean? There's a lot of implication about that there. And we'll talk about some of the implications in a second here. So now we may not see it increase to $400 billion next year or the following year, but there's going to be an ongoing consolidation of contracts, especially common use, common services, common goods is going to continue to be moved under GSA for efficiency purposes, and for GSA is implementing different type of AI to help increase efficiency. Even though they lost budget, they've lost employees, there's going to be an increased usage of procurement through GSA itself. So this is GSA will be an executive agent. That's really what they're saying here. Executive agent of common goods and services. And there's going to be elimination of underperforming companies. So if you are a GSA contract holder, whether you have a schedule, a mass, or any of the other GSA, IDIQ, GWAC contracts, if your company is underperforming, they're going to start to eliminate your GSA contracts. So be very careful of that. If they ask you for a review, make sure you submit your review. If they ask you in terms of why you haven't won any GSA contracts, if you don't successfully defend yourself, you will lose your GSA schedule. And that's critical, because if GSA is going to increase more budget and their usage of GSA is going to manage more contracting dollars, you losing your GSA schedule or GSA mass is going to be very vital for your existence in the government contracting industry. Now, if you receive notification that GSA is evaluating your contract, and because you haven't won any contracts in the last 3 years, and they're targeting you for elimination, please reach out to us. We have successfully defended different companies that have GSA schedule that have not received contracts. And so there's certain ways, certain things you can put in place to defend yourself should you be targeted or should you come under review. So reach out to us if you need help with that there. But let's continue. So additional implications in terms of what's happened under GSA. Approximately 14,000 companies have some type of GSA contract. So 14,315 may seem like a lot, but it's not. That's not a lot of GSA. There's not a lot of companies that have GSA schedules here. We're talking about 550,000 companies are registered in SAM. And that number fluctuates between 550 to 600,000 from time to time. I'm just using the low end number here. So 550,000 companies that are registered. Of that, about 120,000 are small businesses, but only 14,000 companies have a GSA mass. So that means there's going to be a less competition for the $400 billion or 50%, 55% of all the contracting dollars. Only 14,000 companies can bid on those if it's being used under GSA. So you have to really restructure your contracting capture plan and say, okay, we have to reposition ourselves to be successful in the government market. There's going to be less companies bidding on projects. GSA contracting officers will become more paper pushers, meaning they're going to be, because number of employees at GSA have been reduced, they're going to use more AI, or I call paper pushers, even though it's more computer and screen. They're looking at their computer more so paper, but we coined the term paper pushers. And so that means there's going to be less relationship. There's going to be a bigger gap between contractors and end users because GSA is going to stand in between end users. In the past, when GSA is managing only about $100 billion of the contracts, that means you dealt directly with agency buyers. You dealt directly with a contracting officer that is buying for the agency. They are a contracting officer representing the agency itself, the end user. But now if they're going through GSA, that means there's going to be a bigger gap. You're going to have less of an opportunity to build relationships with GSA or with the end user itself. So this gap in terms of relationships will hurt small businesses. And so if you don't make the adjustments, and you don't know how to work with end users versus you're thinking that the contracting officer, which is GSA now, is going to be the key person. Contracting officer through GSA is going to be less and less important. Fostering relation with end users is going to become more and more important, because as the gap continues, how do you reposition yourself so that you can get involved with the end user, and GSA become less, become more of a middleman? That changes how you build relationships. Your capture plan have to change with that. So GSA is also using what's called a OneGov strategy for IT and technology contracting purposes. What does this mean here? That they want to have direct partnership with OEM, original equipment manufacturers, and manufacturer can be a software developer, right? It can be a company that produce a specific technology, a specific solution. So we just call it OEM for a general terminology, but it could be a product or a service or software or hardware, all of that there. So practically, they're severing the relationship between OEMs and resellers. Before, Microsoft have resellers. IBM have resellers. Whether you are a silver or a platinum or a gold partner, reseller partner to some of these software development company and some of these technology company, you can go resell your solution or somebody else's solution to the government. The OneGov strategy is changing a shift to where, yes, will still be resellers, but there's going to be less resellers, because the government's going to want to work directly with the manufacturers or the company that produced that service or that solution, versus going through a third party, which is a reseller or a distributor. That changes the dynamic a little bit. Why? Because many of you don't produce your own goods, right? You don't produce your own services. You rely on other manufacturers. So you have to think through, okay, how do I adjust in this current climate? That will reduce the number of resellers, system integrators, and a lot of small businesses that's currently selling technology in the government market. Now, this is a real example. This just happened in about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. So the government, or more so GSA, work with Google directly, and Google Workspace, Google Email, Google Doc, Google Sheets, Google, everything tied to Google Workspace is now available to federal agencies at 71% price reduction. Now, previously, Microsoft 365, Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft Email, all of these different things have been the main solutions. Microsoft have been the main solutions to federal agencies. But because of this new shift, the OneGov strategy, Google, as a first example, have worked directly with GSA, and then they're going to give GSA a 71% price reduction. Now, you and I, we pay full price for it, right? If you're using Google Workspace. Now, this can potentially be more meaningful for you, because our organization is based on Google Workspace. And I've been resistant to using Microsoft Email, Outlook, Microsoft, some of the Microsoft suite of solutions, because I just didn't like their user flow, and I'm more comfortable on Google Workspace. So I've been resisting the change. But this is good news for us to some ways, that because federal agencies are adopting Google Workspace, that means that we can continue to use Google Workspace, because Google is going to continue to evolve and adapt it to fit federal agency. It allows us to use it because it's going to be more compliant under new CMMC regulations and cyber requirements and so forth. So in some ways, that's good news for us. But this hurts if you are a Google Workspace reseller, if you are a Google partner, if you are a Microsoft partner, IBM partner, some of these big technology companies and you're a distributor or reseller to them, but now they can go directly around you to federal agency, rethink through your strategies. Now, there's also a big change, commercial solutions preference. What does that mean? Practically, the government will start using a contracting vehicle. Now, some of you may not have heard of CSO, Commercial Solutions Opening. This was first piloted in 2017 under the previous Trump administration. Now, Trump 2.0, they are fully launching CSO. What is CSO? CSO is a commercial purchase to where it's under the FAR, but they can go outside of the FAR if they want to, but they want to buy directly off the shelf. Instead of, they want to go with ready to go solutions instead of customized solutions. So they don't want to just spend millions of dollars developing a solution. In fact, let me give you a real example. Probably about 8, maybe 10 years ago, the VA and the DoD decided that they're going to develop a EHR, electronic health record solution. They spent about $2 billion trying to develop a solution. And then they said, oh, it's no good. And then they ended up going with the off-the-shelf EHR solution. I think they went with Epic. One of the agency went with Epic, I think, and the other agency was continuing to work on some other solutions. But $2 billion of taxpayer money went to develop an EHR solution, and then at the end, it got scrapped. Whereas there's already EHR solutions such as Epic and many other Munis and many other EHR solutions out there. So contracting officers, if they are not going to use a ready-to-go solution, they are required to justify why they're not using off-the-shelf. Very important change in the regulation. In the past, they said, oh, we need this. We need a new budgeting software. Well, let's hire a company, come and develop a custom software for our agency. That's what's happened in the past. Now they're like, there's a whole bunch of budgeting software out there. Let's see, let's see who can do this here. So less customized solutions. This is similar to BAA. Now, some of you have participated in BAA in the past, but what is BAA? BAA is broad agency announcements. So in the past, in a broad agency announcement, an agency or contracting officer will publish through a broad agency announcement on sam.gov or on a portal, hey, we have this problem and we want people to submit a white paper solutions. But back then, a broad agency, you can do a customized solution. You can do all types of different things. And there's still a lot of costs related to a BAA solutions to the government. Whereas CSO, the difference is they don't want a new customized solution. They want a solution. It's still kind of like, we have a problem. We want a solution. The big difference is we want it where it's already being used in the market. It doesn't have to be a new technology. It could be existing technology. Now, they are looking for new innovative solutions through CSOs, but it doesn't have to be new. It just has to be new to the government. It could be something that's been around 2, 3, 10 years in the private sector, but if it's never been used in the government market, it's new in that regard. So CSO, the new contracting vehicle that is going to be utilized, increasing usage in the government market. Why? Because a contracting officer can go directly to a solutions provider and purchase that without going through a fully lengthy procurement process, and it has potential to reduce costs. Big changes with this here. So if we look at the contracting vehicle fan, or the fan here, under the blue area is the FAR. Under the green area is the non-FAR. commercial solutions opening is here. Now, currently, they're only using for, it only applies to DFARS, but now they're saying that it's going to be moved outside of just the DoD to potentially GSA is going to start implementing it to other agencies as well. Now, all of that will take time. How soon it permeates to civilian agencies, we don't know. All of that is we're going through the changes right now. So CSO falls under the FAR, or it can fall outside of the FAR, but it is part of this contracting method here. So if you look at this here, you can see for many of you who are small business, that's that can be done under what's called this the small business set asides and direct 8A sole source, right? So that is this little strip right here. Or if you're looking for purchase order, it's through simplify acquisition, which is micro purchases or purchase orders or blanket purchase agreements that can be done in a very different way. So all of this here is there's changes to the FAR as we speak, and I'll address that a little bit more in a second. But all of this here is going through major overhaul right now. Now, other big changes in terms of contracting vehicles, OTAs, right? Other transaction agreements. Now, other transaction authority is the regulation, and then the agreement or the contract you have with the government is the agreement itself. So OTA, it is a legally binding instrument that allows government to buy, and is more like a commercial sector contract. It's like when you do business with business, you engage in a contractual agreement with another business. Well, the government can enter into a G2B, government to business contract without going through the FAR, without going through the traditional procurement process. And so in an OTA, this simplifies how the government buys from businesses, and the government can purchase $50 million in 90 days or less. Does not need to go through a lengthy 6-month, 12-month procurement process. The government says, oh, we want that. We like that. Boom, done in 90 days. And it can be sole source. Hear me out. It can be sole source up to $500 million and still be treated as a commercial purchase. Very, very powerful. And it's open for large, small businesses, academic institutions, really pretty much everybody. Everybody can use OTA. And now many of you, small business, this may be the first time you're hearing of OTA. And you're like, man, what's going on? I need to leverage OTA. Well, OTA is not for every small business, because OTA is for prototype or product that's new innovation, emerging technology, or new product, new solutions. Is not meant for existing. Let's assume you do facilities management and we do janitorial services. You can't go to the government and say, hey, I do janitorial services and I want an OTA sole source contract. That's not what this is for. This is if you have a new solutions, a new idea of doing something differently, and you are in the early stages, similar to a SBIR, right? SBIR or STTR grant, but this is more of a contract. It's not a grant. You can actually go get an OTA and get sole source to you. So now, as I'm going through this here, if you have comments or questions, put in the chat. I'll come back and address some of those things there as we're going through this here. If you're watching this on replay, put your questions in. I pretty much address every single question in the comments. So, put in the comment as well. Now, they also want to use this here to promote public and private collaboration. Public meaning government institutions. Public can also mean public universities. Private can be corporations or private universities. So they want a greater collaboration in terms of using OTA itself. There's flexibility in crafting the IP. Now, if you are creating the solution. You want to own the technology, right? You want to own the intellectual property. You don't want to give it to the government. When they say flexibility in terms of how you craft it, generally the way you want to, I'm not an attorney, so a little disclaimer here, but I'll give you some general ideas. This is for educational purposes only. What you want to do is you want to structure it to where the government wants to have certain rights of usage to it. You want to maintain the intellectual property because you want to sell it to state government and local agencies and private sector. If you develop some type of solution, the government gave you the money to develop your prototype and to go to market, but you want to protect your intellectual property. And so generally you would negotiate so many years that the government can use it at no cost to them because they're funding all of this work. So they can use it for so many years. And then after that, then if they want to use beyond that time frame, then there's a cost. So that's one way of structuring the IP to it. You still own it. The government gets to use it at no cost to them. But depending on the type of intellectual property, you definitely want to seek out an attorney to help you navigate through that process there. So OTA in our contracting fan here, it falls in the green area, the non-FAR, or what we call statutory, right? Statutory means that the regulations or the rules that's made up that did not go through the FAR process. And agency can come up with the rules, with their own rules. And so different agencies have their own OTA rules. But again, this is mainly used for research and prototyping purposes only. All right, so what does that mean? So OTA is not for standard procurement. It is not subject to any provision of the FAR, and the project awards cannot be protested. So if you receive funding through OTA, no one can challenge it. No one can say, oh, since you're working with a large company and you're a small business, there's affiliation, none of that crazy stuff. Or someone can say, oh, we have a similar product. Why didn't the government award it to us? Can't be challenged in that regard. And so anytime a sole source is awarded, there has to be a justification, and it can be potentially challenged in that regard, even though it may be sole source to a small business or to a manufacturer, it can still be challenged, whereas OTA, no challenges. So how to get OTA? What you want to do is you want to join a consortium. There's a lot of different consortia out there, and you want to find one that is specific. I do have a list of all of these different here. So this is the link to it. I'm going to put this in the chat. And I do have a special link, a bonus link I'm going to give to everybody at the end. So stick around to the end so you can get the special bonus related to OTAs. So it's hard. You can go directly to an agency, but knocking on the right door to get the dialogue going, to get the prototype, to convince a key decision maker, end user to work with you, you don't have that deep level relationship. But by joining a consortium, you can they have relationship with agency already, and the consortium will act on your behalf, and they make a little bit money, you make the most money, agency gets the benefits of already working with someone that they know and trust. So let's look at the funding here. So this source is from Deltec GovWin. And so, this is a chart that they created. So credit to them for putting this chart together. CSOs and OTA spendings. If we look at this here, the increased use of CSO, commercial solutions opening, it was piloted in 2017. They started using a little bit in 2020. In terms of total dollars spent, was $6 million for CSO. And we start looking at this, 2024, it's increased to $328 million. And this will continue to increase over the years to come. So when I say CSO is a contracting vehicle that you have to pay attention to, that's why I'm talking about it, right? The increased usage of it in a very short period of time, we're going to see it approach the billions of dollars in terms of CSO. Now, OTA, if we look back for the last 4 years, OTA has been used for probably over a decade now, but more usage under the last 10 years. So we're seeing OTAs at $16 billion in 2020. Now it's gone up to about $18 billion. And we're going to see more usage of OTA as well going forward. And once some of these contracting vehicles are in place, contracting officers are trained on how to use them, they're going to continue to use these vehicles more and more. Now, let's talk about with all these changes, a lot of this here is being codified into the FAR. Some of it is not. Some of it is being codified into the FAR. Like CSO will be under the FAR, whereas OTA will be outside of the FAR. But the FAR is going through a lot of changes. Now, the one positive thing is that the FAR currently has over 2,000 pages. Think about that. 2,000 pages. For some of you who love to read, please go read the FAR. But changes are happening. And I've only met in my 16-year-ish of doing government contracting, I've only met I met less than 10 people who have read all of the FAR. I'm talking about probably less than 5 people. Contracting officer, most contracting officers have not read through all of the FAR. Now they read parts of the FAR, they study parts of the FAR, but I've never, it's rare that anyone have read all of the FAR. Why? Because it's just overwhelming. And so, but if you become comfortable with the FAR, it will set you apart from everybody else. Now, there are some specific parts of the FAR that you must read. FAR Part 19 is an absolutely must read. Let me say that again. FAR Part 19, must read as a small business. So that is a must read. So what is FAR 19? It talks about small business. It talks about small business set aside, small business certification. It talks about the 8A, the women-owned, the veteran-owned, the hub zone companies, and all those certifications out there. So must read that. But they're going through a lot of changes with the FAR. So right now, currently, it's been reported that they're finished with Part 1, Part 34, and Part 52. Ongoing changes will continue to happen to the rest. There's a total of 53 parts of the FAR. So they still got some more work to be done. This will have a full impact on every single businesses in the government market. You as a contractor, you will be impacted with all the changes that's happening to the FAR. The reduction of the FAR will have impact on you, and changes to the FAR will have an impact on your business. Some good things that's going to happen. That means there's going to be more streamline of the regulation. The one positive thing that under the Trump administration that I love is that for every new regulation, the goal is to reduce or eliminate 10 old regulation, right? So that's very positive in terms of what's happening in that regard. And there is a potential for faster acquisition, more usage in terms of, or easier for you to sell in a faster way to the government. Some other changes that's happening, there is a centralized payment portal that's being restructured right now, because currently there's multiple payment portal. There is one called I think IPP, and then there's also wide area workflow there, and there's many federal agencies use their own internal invoicing mechanism. All of this here is being moved to the U.S. Treasury Department to start managing the invoicing and payment so that there can be more of a streamlined process. This will save money in terms of multiple tools and redundancy in terms of all the different ways of how invoicing is done. It saves you time, right? Because now in the near future, there would just be one portal. Now, there are some risks with that, right? That means that in the past, because there's multiple portal, uh, oversight and big big brother controlling how and when you get paid is less likely, right? But if it's all under one portal and there is a czar that is overseeing who gets paid and who doesn't get paid, that can present some potential strong government control over your business, because they control you by controlling when you get paid. So there's some big brother risk here with this change here. And there can be also change in terms of they can choose to terminate contracts, because now it's, oh, we don't like this company, or we don't like that company. Oh, this company has a DI contract, or this company is this type of business owner. They have more oversight and they have more control, so potentially more risk in terms of contract and grants being terminated. So there are some risks with that there. Let's look at some in terms of impact on small businesses. Now, one of the change has happened, right? So these are the small business goals for different agency. And this chart is from GovOneDotech. So thank you to them for creating this chart for us. So DOD has a small business goal of 23%. Now, different agency. Now, we normally, because DOD is they award the most contract, about $450 billion of contracting dollar is awarded by DOD. So about 50, 55, some years 60% of dollars is managed by DOD. We normally just teach, hey, set asides to small business 23%. But reality is actually some agencies are higher than that and some agencies are lower than that. So if we look at this here, right? DOD is 23%, HHS is 24%, the VA is 29% to small businesses, Department of Energy is 17%, Homeland Security is 36%, NASA is 18%, amongst one of the lowest, right? And then Department of State and USDA, USDA, they love small businesses. So if you are a small business and you're like, which agency should I work with? Well, guess what? USDA, they award 58% of contract to small businesses. So that's who you want to work with. And then the other agency is the SBA, right? 72. They're the highest. Why? Because they're the Small Business Administration, and it would be horrendous if the Small Business Administration does not award contracts to small businesses. So take a look at this here. If you want a copy of these slides here, send us an email. My production manager is going to put our email in the chat, and send us an email. I'll be more than happy so that you can study this chart some more. Let's talk about the budget that's happening. Now, this is the early stage skinny budget that's going to happen, projection and so forth. There are some agencies that are seeing increase budget, and there's some agencies that's going to see major decrease in their budget. So the biggest decrease is, if we look at this here, right, is the Department of State, 83% decrease. So a lot of changes that's happening. Now, in terms of increase, if we look at this here, DOD is seeing a 13% increase. The VA is seeing a 17% increase. And Homeland Security, right? Border Patrol, ICE, all of these different agencies that falls under Homeland Security, TSA, 65% budget increase. So if you're thinking, which agency should I work with? Guess what? Go work with the agency that's seeing the greatest budget increase. DOD, Army, Air Force, Space Command, Fleet Command, all of the Marines and all the DOD sub-agencies. The VA, 17% increase. So use this chart here to help you. Now, SBA is seeing 55% cut. Now, if we look at GSA also, GSA is seeing a 155% cut. Now, I have no idea how you can have a 155% cut. That means your everybody's gone. Because the 100% cut means everybody's gone. So I'm still not sure how GSA is getting 155% cut. So I'm still confused about that number by OMB. But someone has to explain that to me. But so lots of different cuts. Now, GSA is saying that the reason why GSA is seeing cuts because they manage contract. And right now they're implementing AI solutions and new consolidation of how contracts are awarded into GSA. And potentially that is going to create more efficiency. So that's really what they're saying. Less people and more technology to help streamline the acquisition process. So we're seeing some major increase and some major cuts. But let's talk about opportunities, right? Because I promise you that, yes, there's a lot of changes, but we need to talk about opportunities. So there's some positive news, right? Doge, or let's talk about tariffs first. So tariffs, we are seeing some changes with the tariffs. Some of the high increases, it's just all, I told everybody at the very beginning, right? When we saw the new tariffs being implemented, I said, that's all negotiating tactics. It's going to go away or it's going to change. It's not going to be 145%, 250%, all these crazy numbers. And so we'll look at tariffs. Tariffs are being becoming already more reasonable as we speak right now. Elon Musk is leaving Doge. He wielded so much power while he was at Doge, and he can walk into any agency and just cut. But now he's leaving. I think he's leaving at the end of May, but he's technically already not super active and pretty much gone already from the reports I'm hearing. But let's look at the tariffs, right? As it relates to U.S. tariffs with China, the 145% cut as of right now for the next 90 days is down to 30%. And then in terms of China tariffs on U.S., it's gone from 125% to 10%. The U.S. normally has what's called a de minimis package. Any items under $800 usually has no tax, no tariffs at all. But now it's gone from 120% during the high tariff increase to 54%. Most likely this will even come down even more. And then in terms of charges for carrier, shipping companies and logistics company, UPS and FedEx, there's a 30%. It went from 145 down to 30%. And then flat fee packages is still at $100, but all this here will continue to be negotiated in the coming days and months and so forth. This is the current state as of today, May 14th, but changes will happen. Oh, by the way, May 14th, guess what, everybody? Today is my birthday, May 14th, and I'm hanging out with y'all. So my birthday, I love hanging out with people, love hanging out with you. So happy birthday to me. And thanks for coming to hang out with me and celebrating my birthday on this podcast here. So other changes, SBA, major changes, reorganization, workforce reduction, 43% of their workforce have been gone. Now, in the Georgia district, or Region 4, more so Region 4 district, which is Georgia, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, and I think Tennessee, Region 4, the SBA BOS supervisor, he just announced that he will be leaving. So lots of changes happening. People are leaving, changes happening at the SBA. But some other things happening. SBA is going to refocus more on their core mission, meaning that they're going to focus more on capital access, disaster recovery, fuel support, veteran business development, and a new, or not a new, but an existing agency called the Small Business Development Center, SBDC, Small Business Development Center. they're going to take on some of the technical training, some of the things that the SBA was supposed to be doing in previous years. So SBA is doing less. SBDC. Now, I don't know if SBDC is a sub-agency under SBA. I'm not fully familiar with that relationship, but SBDC is a separate sub-agency, and they will start to assume more of the work of the technical training that the SBA has been supposedly doing. Now, SBA has never done a great job with technical training, and so some shifts there. The set aside goal under the Biden administration, it went from 5% to for small business, small disadvantaged business, to 15% to 28%. It was supposed to go to 33% at some point, but now it's been moved back to 5%. So bad news for small business as it relates to that there. And the new rules also is requiring that prime contractors notify contracting officers when they fail to pay small businesses or subcontractors on a timely manner. And if they don't notify the government, you as a small business can actually report on them and say, hey, we are net 30 and I haven't received my payment. And you can actually go complain to the government, to the contracting officer, and the prime can get in trouble. So prime can no longer hold you hostage, because when they get paid, they don't pay you, right? They give you all kind of reason, all kind of excuses. But keep in mind that it's a double-edged sword. So don't just talk about, don't just report the prime, because they may not want to work with you again. Work with them, and so it's a double-edged sword. Also, SBA, they lending programs are changing. In the past, the SBA usually allowed the banks to create the commercial loan criteria, and do what you do. That's what the SBA tell the bank, right? Just do what you do, and we'll guarantee the loans. Well, now the SBA say that is gone, and also seller financing is going through some stricter changes. And injection of 10% equity must be part of the company that's buying the other business that's going to be using SBA guaranteed funding. So seller, a seller note or a owner financing, there's going to be some changes with that as well. And it's going to make it less attractive for seller financing. That means mergers, acquisitions, and that side of it will start to change a little bit. So this is bad news for small businesses. But let's look at for opportunities, right? This is probably the most important part of the whole presentation. For the last 5 months under the Trump administration, very little contracts have been awarded. In fact, most contracts have been cut, or as we looked earlier, over 7,000 contracts have been terminated, 14,000 total. Contracting officers at this moment, as we speak, are under a lot of pressure to award contracts. This is good news for you, because they've been scrambling. Some of them contractors, they don't know if they're going to have their jobs. Lots of changes in that regard. Well, right now, contracting officers are pressured to award contracts. That means sole source opportunities are available. In fact, within the last few weeks, we've heard multiple members say, hey, I just got notification of sole source contracts. So this is the time to engage contracting officer for sole source opportunities. And because of time, I can't do a live demo, but in the last few days, 128 sole source contracts have been reported on SAM.gov itself. So happening real time, under a lot of pressure. We are in the third quarter, about to go to the fourth quarter. A lot of pressure on contracting officer. So definitely use that. I want to talk about, we're wrapping up here. I want to talk about 2 bonuses. I told you that if you stay to the end, I've got a bonus for you. I want to give you the list of OTA consortiums out there, or consortia. English is my second language, and consortium and consortium, I'm still confused about that. If you know the right pronunciation, I guess different people pronounce it differently. So that's bonus number 1. And then bonus number 2 is we have a For the GovCon community, we have a $1 trial membership in the GovCon community. And so I'm going to put these links into the chat. And so if you are interested in the consortia list, get that in the chat. Or if you are interested in bonus number 2, which is becoming a member of the GovCon community, we're making that available to you for $1 trial membership for 14 days. You can use the GovCon community. So you're thinking, okay, hey, what is inside the GovCon community? Let me give you a quick sneak peek inside of it. So part of the association is when you join the community, you are also joining as a member of the association. And in here, we put in events. We have news summary, all the different things that's happening in the government market. We aggregate all of the news and put it into one place. We also celebrate wins. We have Teaming Tuesday. Teaming Tuesday is once a month. We meet up and you get to pitch about your company. You get to talk about, hey, I'm looking for a subcontractor. I'm looking for a prime. I'm looking for an 8A company. I'm looking for a veteran-owned business. You come and pitch what your needs are. Or if you are a service provider, some of you are accountants, some of you are lenders. You can come say, hey, this is my service. I have this service offering to provide to small business owners. We also in here, we have events. We aggregate all the events that's happening in the government market. If you're saying, I need an event to attend, whether it's free or paid or online or in person, we aggregate all the events into one place, right? So what's happening now as of today, and then so there's 3 other events you can attend today. There's happenings, next week and this month, and it just goes on and on and on, right? All the different events that's happening. We also have GCA member-only events. So as a member, we have Inner Circle, we have lab sessions, we have training classes, and most of our events are free to members. So become a member for $1. You can attend all of our events. We also have lots of other different things. We have free resources. If you are if you're looking for different resources, we have downloadable content. If you are an industry partner, you can come and post your services, your what you offer to other small businesses. So come hang out with us. The links are in the chat, and you can become a member of the GovCon community for $1. And so hang out with us in that regard. I will see if there's any questions as we wrap it up here. Now, we are scheduled for power to go off in my neighborhood at this moment right now. So if for any reason I go off and I didn't get a chance to answer your questions, it's because of the power company. I told them I have a podcast, so don't turn off the power. So they've been gracious. All right, so what does it mean if Elon Musk is leaving Doge? That means Doge will lose some of its teeth because Elon Musk has a lot of power. And that means that Doge will start to, the work that they do will start to go away. So Doge is not scheduled to completely go away yet, but Elon Musk is the power figure behind it. So that's what that means. Are you sharing a document? Yes. If you want a copy of the PowerPoint slides, reach out to us, info@govcontractors.org, and we'll be more happy to send you a copy of the PowerPoint slides. Other questions? Oh, lots of birthday wishes. Thank you. All right, so I don't see any other questions. Last call for questions. If not, we're gonna wrap it up here. Yep. Yeah, I don't think so. Just wanted to say thank you everybody for coming to hang out with us today for this podcast. So next week we are not doing a podcast. We will be taking a week off, mainly because my co-host she needs a little time off, and I will be preparing to go to Florida to do some fishing on a mini getaway. Now, my wife is awesome. She says, honey, you need to go and get away from everything. So I'm going down there for about 4 or 5 days just to do some fishing, hang out down there. I will be thinking about you while I am having some peace and quiet because you're still in my heart. Everywhere I go, I take you with me. So thanks for hanging out with us here on today's podcast. And remember, you are one contract away, not two, one contract away from all your goals, all the things you want to accomplish, the dream, the house you want, the car you want, the next employee that you want, one contract away. Until then, we'll see you in 2 weeks for another episode of the Grants and Contract Podcast. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.